Good evening, gremlins, and welcome to Monsters Among Us Junior. Whether it's your first time listening or your billionth, because we've definitely made 1 billion episodes so far, we're glad you've taken the time to squeeze us into your busy schedules. Between clarinet lessons, wrestling practice, play rehearsals, dance competitions, and math tutoring, we know you're always on the go, and my co-host Derek and I are thankful to be one small part of your hectic week. But hey, before you head upstairs to finish your homework, what if we, summoned a spirit or two? Adam from California might be able to help us out.
Hi, Derek. This is Adam from Southern California, and I just wanted to share a story that happened to my uncle when he was younger. I do not know the year or date, but all I do know is it was a dark winter night, and he invited his friends over, and one of them brought a Ouija board. So when they're using it, they asked it a question, and when it answered, they got scared, and the power went out at that moment. They ran up the house, and my uncle went to tell his mom about it. She got mad since he wasn't supposed to be using that, so she threw in the trash. And 2 days later, after he got back home from school, it was back in his room where they were using it. So they took it to church to put holy water. After they put holy water, they buried it far away from their home. And after that, he's never seen it since. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity. I love your work, and keep it spooky. Bye.
Adam, you're too kind. Thank you for sharing your secondhand story with us. And what a classic Ouija board story to boot. I absolutely love it when haunted objects get chucked into the garbage can, only to return a few days later. And speaking of Ouija boards, I've included a picture in tonight's show notes of a Ouija board from 1973 that I purchased recently at a local thrift shop. The exact same night I bought it, my television turned on by itself when I was in the other room. Could it have been the spirit of the Ouija board's previous owner? Should I make it pay rent? I have some thinking to do, but in the meantime, we appreciate the story, Adam. With spooky roommates on the brain, it sounds like Levi from Colorado may have an unwelcome intruder of his own. We're listening, Levi.
Hello, my name is Levi. I'm from Colorado, Denver. My story is about, so when I was on my bed just sitting, I saw a shadow sitting not the way I was sitting, but when I got up, it was still sitting. So when I went to the bathroom, it moved a different angle, and my windows were not showing, there's a blanket over them, so it couldn't show the brightness. And then the next day I saw the same shadow, and it disappeared after 3 days.
A shadow person that stuck around for 3 days? What's that all about, Levi? Did you happen to feed it some of your mom's famous spaghetti and it waited around for more? Was it only sitting on your bed, or did you catch it chilling on the couch in your rec room too? I have so many questions about this phantom figure. And while your tale gives me the heebie-jeebies, we're extra grateful you called in with such a harrowing experience. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, everyone. Mike. 844-204.
Okie dokie, cowpokies. I have one more call to share with you before I have to rotate the tires on my brand new hearse. And here with a creepy car call of his own is Olaf from Parts Unknown.
Hi, Derek. My name is Arlo. So this happened in about second grade. So I was coming home from my grandma's house after Christmas, and we passed a car wash, and I saw this white, black, and gray girl just staring at me. She looked like she was maybe 7 years old. She was wearing a white dress with bruises on her eyes, also black hair, and when we passed her, she vanished. Thank you for letting me call in.
Thanks, Olaf. Now, while we're on the topic of car washes...
In keeping with the fall theme, a West Michigan-based car wash company is offering a scary good time for Halloween. You are looking at the Tunnel of Terror at Tommy's Express Car Wash in Lake Orion. Customers can get their cars washed while enjoying Halloween decorations, strobe lights, and employees dressed up in scary costumes.
That clip courtesy of CBS Detroit. And I mean, yeah, that seems kinda scary, but not nearly as terrifying as Olaf's real-life encounter. Plus, I'd wager that most kids were inside playing with their new toys on Christmas night, not wearing makeup and playing a prank outside a car wash. You've convinced me, Olaf. We appreciate you taking the time to call in. Alright friends, if you have a supernatural experience and want to be featured on a future episode of MAU Junior, be sure to give our hotline a ring at 1-833-MAU-KIDS. That's 1-833-MAU-KIDS. Or send a voice memo to monstersamongus.jr@gmail.com. Remember, call from a quiet location, keep your call under 2 minutes, and be sure to get your parent or guardian's permission before calling in. Alright, hooligans, Meemaw's new whip awaits. Catch y'all next week.
No, I've seen her drive that thing. So trust me when I say you want to keep your head on a swivel if you're traveling the back roads of Kentucky. And legend says you can still hear her squealing tires as she rockets through the bluegrass-covered hills. Well, howdy gang, it's great to be with you here this evening. And it sounds like Delaney scared up some good ones here for you tonight. A shadow figure that refused to leave, or a haunted Ouija board, or a spooky car wash. Stories like that will make you want to climb into bed and dive under the covers. But you might have second thoughts about that when you hear Lana's story out of the Rocky Mountain state of Colorado.
Hi, my name is Lana, and I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. My mom has told me about the show, and I wanted to call in and tell you my story. So, I'm 8, and I was 7 when this happened. This happened in 2024. Me and my mom and my sister were in the living room, and my dad was in his office, and we were just watching the TV. And so my dad said, "Hey guys, I found this really cool thing on my computer." So we go over there to go see what he wants to show us, and my mom turned the TV off before we go into my dad's office. So we're done seeing what he wanted to show us, and we're ready to go to bed. We come out of his office, back into the living room, and the TV is on. We don't think much of it. We just turn it off again. Later that night, I'm about to go to sleep until I hear a voice under my bed. It goes, "La, la, 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 la." I'm scared. I go to my parents and tell them what just happened. They say it's just my imagination and I should just go back to bed. I go back to bed. Like 5 days later, I hear the same voice, just a different song. They sing Ring Around the Rosie, but with a twist. So it went like, Ring around the rosie, ashes, ashes, we all die now. I'm scared. I hear a little girl scream. I'm scared to death. I don't even dare to get out of my bed. And then I see a little girl appear out from under my bed. And I'm just scared, and that's my story. It's just, I was scared to death in that moment. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Thank you, Lana. And thanks to your mom for sharing the show with you. We really appreciate anyone willing to help spread the word. Now, Lana, as for that strange, sing-songy voice that you heard, I can only hope that it was a long-forgotten toy under your bed, and the batteries were starting to go dead, which triggered it to life one last time. Which, by the way, can happen with old toys or old batteries. One final jolt of electricity before the bunny stops drumming. Now, like I said, I hope that is the case, because I sure don't want to know who else or what else would sing those songs, Lana. Well, it's creepy stuff, and we can't thank you enough for calling in. Now, kids, next up we make our way to the land of Lincoln. Klaus, welcome to the program.
Alright, I'm Klaus from Chicago. I'm 10 years old and in 4th grade. And I called into your junior show a few times, but this is in relation to one of your regular shows that my mom let me listen to. So I was having a Maori unit in school, and I got to go to the Field Museum and visit a traditional Maori meeting house. And the specialists there say the carvings on the house, it's like covered with carvings, talk to each other. I thought immediately about the one that my mom let me listen to, which was about the masks on the wall when the guy, who was like 5 years old at the time, went in and saw all the masks talking to each other on the walls in a different language. And that's all I wanted to call in about. Bye!
Thank you, Klaus. I remember that story. One of my favorite stories, in fact. It was called in by a man named Andrew back on season 17, episode 16 of our main show. He was playing at a friend's house when he was a kid, playing video games and Ninja Turtles, he said. Well, according to Andrew, his friend's parents told them that there was one room in the house that was off limits, the parents' bedroom. But his curiosity got the better of him, and he snuck inside anyway. And the following is what he experienced in his own words.
So when I opened up her door, her entire room was completely covered in large, what I assume to be tribal masks of some sort, like the ones you see in Africa and some parts of Asia, and Native Americans with the large, misshapen facial features and strange, giant masks with pointed heads and all types of shapes and sizes. But that's not the crazy part. As soon as I opened that door, it was like a cacophony of voices. I heard many voices talking over each other, and it wasn't necessarily angry or shouting. It was like being in a crowded lunchroom or in the middle of a mall or something, like everyone trying to talk over each other and get their point across, or perhaps some type of debate or something. And they were all speaking in foreign languages. I could not understand what anything was being said other than it wasn't directed at me. It didn't feel like that they were talking amongst themselves, and just so many voices to where it was almost deafening. And you can imagine, I immediately slammed the door, and the first thing I did was run to my friend and ask him if he'd ever seen that, and if he'd ever gone in his parents' room, and what the heck is up with these masks. And, I'm only 5 years old. I think, if I remember right, I was almost on the verge of crying. I could see the look of recognition in his eyes. He knew what I was talking about, and his response simply was, I know. That's why I'm not supposed to let anybody in there.
Now, I think you can hear why this is one of my favorites. And now that you've heard it, you'll never look at one of these masks the same way again. Just take Klaus's word for it. Thank you again, Klaus, for calling in. Well, this next one is the final call of the evening. But before I push play, I want to ask you all to help MAU Junior grow by sharing with your friends and family. Help us get the word out there and help us bring in more spooky stories. Stories just like Weston's, also from Colorado.
Weston from Colorado. So I was in my bed and I woke up in the middle of the night and there was like this weird, it was this black and it had like orange, red, fiery eyes, and it went right in the middle of my door and stopped and started looking at me for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then it like went away past my door. I saw it come back through my door again, and then like a couple seconds later I was still awake, and then this like weird black mist like came by. It was like a black mist, and it went straight by my door on each side, and it met in the middle of the door. Thanks, I love your podcast. And that was my story.
A shadowy figure, a black mist, bright red eyes. No thank you, but a big thank you to Weston for sharing that spooky encounter with us. Whatever it was, it sounded like a terrifying experience. And folks, that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. Now, Monsters Among Us Jr. is written and produced by Derek Hayes and Delaney Bowers, edited by Connor Ryan, and additional support is provided by Sarah Carter Hayes. Copyright Red Crow Media. All media used in this production is done so under the protection of fair use. And tonight's score was provided by Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, Co.ag Music, and Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. And lastly, the MAU Junior theme was written and produced by Ali Mamarian. It was great to have you with us here this evening. I hope you had a scary good time. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks with a brand new episode. But until then, keep it spooky out there, kiddos. And of course, have a good night.